everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 564. Sort of slightly delayed. I know in the last show, which was, last year. Can you believe it? Happy New Year, by the way, everybody. I said we'd be back on the 2nd of January, but everybody was still kind of, munching on mince pies or doing whatever they do over the Christmas break. So we had a kind of slightly impromptu break. So welcome back to Sonic Talk 2019. 2019, we are in you fully now. It's now, what is it? It's Wednesday, the 9th of January. This is the podcast to do with music technology, software, synthesizers, controllers, live performance, live production, studio work, all of those kind of things. And we're opening the year with our first show. What is it? I said 564, didn't I? Episode 564. Can't think of a number for that. We've got a little bit of an extra guest scenario here. We've got a few more people because we wanted to start really with some sad news. Before I go to that, though, I just want to say thank you very much to the guys over at YouTube in the chat room, and also our local chatties. I haven't set that one up. I need to fix that. That's not working. Damn. So if I come back there, I'm sure I can fix that again in a minute. iZotope will be giving away a copy of RX7 a little bit later on, but unfortunately, we're sort of starting with, while it's sad news, it's also kind of quite joyous because Alan R Pearlman sadly passed away at the ripe old age of 93, which is, of course, terribly sad. But, I mean, the legacy that he's left, I mean, if you don't know, you probably, if you're not watching, if you've seen the show before, you probably know who Alan R Pearlman is. Father of ARP Instruments, Inc. Passed away on January the 6th. And we've got Dave Spears on the show here, actually, with my button there, who's going to talk a little bit about him. But we'll introduce the rest of our guests to begin with, because I know Dave's got to get off, but he wanted to say a few words. So let's have a quick introduction. Well, we'll say hello to you, Dave, first. But before we get onto that sad news, we'll see how everything's going in the land of GeForceSoftware.com and the new year. Did you manage to enjoy Christmas and all of that stuff without getting sick?
Yes, I think this was the first year for about 3 years we were relatively lurgy-free. Everybody else I knew was hit by it. So, yeah, we were kind of unique, really. It was nice. It was a quiet one. In fact, my wife had been ill earlier, and the reason this is a quick one for me is she's just come out of hospital. So if my phone goes and there's a text on it going, I've fallen over, I need to run, but hopefully that won't happen because I've left her lying down.
Yes, we should point out that it's just a routine service operation, nothing kind of too horrible. So, although I'm sure it's very painful, but get well soon, Louise. Please do. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Dave. And we've also got Mr. Yoad Nevo here, who we haven't seen for a little while. And one of the reasons we haven't seen him is because he's got a new studio and he's moved studios and he's looking a lot happier and less stressed. Oh, that's what I told him. Happy New Year, Yoad. You're now in your new place, right?
I'm in my new place. It's still not quite finished yet, but I'm just showing you the part that is kind of nearly there. So you don't want to see the rest of it yet.
Still got box. When's it all going to be functional then?
When? That's a good question.
Is there someone?
I'm asking my builders the same question.
I detect that might be a slightly sore point, but yes, soon. It's an ongoing situation, right?
Soonish, yeah. Soonish.
Okay. Of course, Yoad is a Waves developer as well as being a producer, remix engineer, songwriter, all of those things. And I guess you're itching to get started. Are you actually able to work there yet, or are you still?
Yeah, you won't believe the kind of stuff that I've been doing here while everything was going off. I had the speaker towers empty, and I put a couple of Quested. They look really ridiculous in those big
in the soffits.
And with dust flying around like twice a day. I had to brush the laptop and my ears as well. Man. And it's been challenging, but it kind of, it's like old school kind of doing some manual labor as well as moving the mouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean.
It's
good. It's good for the soul, that sort of thing. I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we've also got Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, who's there. He's got a very nicely composed shot. Lots of branding, Charles. I know you're big on that this year. Have you got a 2019 plan? I see you've got a new 2019 microphone by the looks of it, which is front and center.
I do, and I also have a new 2019 synth. I bought a Moog grandmother.
Oh yeah, I saw. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really nice. Yeah, yeah. So in town, Wunjo was going out of business, so I went over there and just bought up a bunch of stuff, and I'll probably take another trip down there and buy some more stuff. It's like because it's so cheap. But yeah, I bought a few mics, keyboard. So now I'm officially at that point where I'm not going to buy any more synthesizers. I'm not buying any. I tell myself that at least. But yeah, there's nothing else I want to buy right now. So
right, the grandmother. I have to say that the grandmother is a great little synth, because when I got it, I mean, I've said on this show before, I'm sort of a bit over the classic Moog subtractive ladder filter and stuff, but actually the grandmother is it feels really nicely put together, actually, I have to say.
It really does, yeah. I think a combination of, I have the Mother 32, so I think using those two as one synth, I think it's going to be a really nice sound. I can get some really rich sounds out of that. Heck, I can do the same thing though with my, you do the OP1 through it, because it's got a real spring reverb. I love that. Like you bounce the machine, and actually, I love that. So yeah, I'm really happy. I just got that in yesterday. So
yeah, I saw the picture on one of your social posts, and I was thinking, you're going to enjoy that. Excellent. Well, lovely to have you, Charles. We'll get on to some more chat in a second. And of course, we have Mr. Gaz Williams. Happy New Year to you. How are you, Gaz?
Yeah, I'm really good. Sorry about my strange camera angle. I only just made it in time, so it's all a little bit hodgepodge. But Yoad's a little bit in front of me at the moment. I'm doing a complete studio refit over the next week or so. Dreading it and looking forward to it in equal measure, dreading the amount of just grafters there is involved, but really looking forward to it. I've inherited Robbie Bronniman's studio furniture from his previous studio, which is really kind of him. I've been helping him a little bit with his we're getting him set up in his new place. So that's prompted me to have a complete rethink, and it's going to be very different in here. I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to be a big change. Hopefully it's going to be kind of a little bit more practical as well for collaborative work and that sort of thing. But like what Robbie's got is really cool. He's got one of those Isovox vocal booth things, which so I've been eyeing those up, and they look really, and it's really good. But I'm actually thinking I might have a go at making one, because I think it's
some duvets, egg boxes.
Primarily because what's quite cool about them is you can go in there and you can sing really loudly. I mean, I don't have the luxury of having a really nice separate studio. I'm living in like a terrace, so I've got a certain amount of sound insulation here. But when I like to sing like a kind of like a loony sometimes, like really loud, and I suppose it's my prog rock roots and stuff. But
you want to fully express yourself, no matter what time of day, right?
And some people think these kind of Isovoxes are a little bit kind of claustrophobic, because it's like essentially it's like a portable booth for just your head. But when you go in there, you can sing really loudly, and if you're just outside of it, it really attenuates the singing by enormous amount, really. So yes, there's a few people kind of posted videos about how to kind of make some DIY style. So I think that's what I'm gonna be looking into doing.
Right. Well, excellent. Well, I mean, yes, studio move. We haven't done any studio moves. I was just saying we did a bit of rib wiring and stuff. But we should get on to the Dave. Should I play that clip first, or how would you like to handle this? Because
if you like, might be a nice intro. I mean, this was a bit of audio as I was setting up to film him, and I put the audio recorder on, but I didn't actually have the tape on, the video on at the time. So, but it's a nice thing into how he got started.
Okay, so I'll do that. So this is Alan R Pearlman, who's the founder of ARP Instruments, who, like I said, he sadly passed away a few days back, 6th of January. And this is a little story about how he basically got into electrics. It's a little bit cropped at the beginning, but I think he's talking about how his parents, would warn him not to go near certain things in the house.
Yeah, not to do this, not to do that, and of course I went and stay away from those things in the wall that plug in. So of course, so I started probing around, and I saw some knitting needles. So I went, and then I found myself on the other side of the room. Well, and she scolded me. And I said, if I can survive that, I'm interested in this electricity thing. If it could do that to me, it can do other things.
That's a lovely story, isn't it? So, I mean, I don't know if you managed to catch all of that, but essentially, it's to do with the fact that when he started out, he basically electrocuted himself by sticking a knitting needle in a wall socket, and was kind of, I suppose, just sort of enamoured by the power that electricity could have. I don't see any other way of putting it. So it's a lovely story. And of course, in your film, Dave, I mean, you're very fortunate to spend some time with Alan and talk to him, because he, as we had a speak before, I wrote my little piece on him on Sonic, and you were really sort of taken by the fact that it's only 11 years of his life, and he was like 93. He did so much other stuff, right?
Yes, and I think that's kind of what struck me. I mean, to put it into context, I mean, anyone who knows me knows I'm a 50-something-year-old bloke who behaves like a 25-year-old at best, and sort of blunders through things, gets through things largely through to sort of tenacity and a love of the industry and a reasonable musical ear. But when we did Bright Sparks, it took a while for me to persuade Alan to tell his life story, because obviously it didn't end well for him, and he'd rarely talked about things he'd done, obviously Mark Vale's book, and he'd done a NAMM oral history. Anyway, I'd spoken with him on the phone a few times, and eventually, by being such a fanboy, I'd kind of persuaded him to talk to us, whereupon Chris and I jumped on a plane like pretty much a couple of days later, flew to Boston. So we knew it was going to be a really special meeting, and as was every one of the Bright Sparks interviewees, but this turned out to be actually quite life-changing for me, because we flew to Boston, we arrived at their apartment, and I kind of suddenly had this little panic in that his two 50-year-old blokes turning up at the home of two elderly people who really didn't know us from Adam, only from phone calls, and it kind of made me slightly anxious. It was that sort of last-minute nerves thing. And the door was opened by Alan's wife, who's a kind of short but fairly formidable-looking woman, who let us in and introduced us to Alan, and we set up and we were chatting, and obviously that little piece was just kind of captured right at the beginning when he was talking before we turned the video cameras on. And I was always really mindful and kind of nervous about the fact that we were intruding, and effectively there were two kind of elderly, vulnerable people. And what was interesting is it was also clear that Buena, Alan's wife, was kind of sizing us up, which was completely fair. Anyway, I started asking questions, and Alan was a kind of dream to interview. In fact, I learned a really important interview technique purely by accident. I asked him a question, and I got the question wrong. I think I asked what happened with the sale of Teledyne to Nexus, whereas it was actually the other way around. He sold Nexus to Teledyne, who's a huge company. But what that did is it had the effect where he corrected me, and then he went full tilt into a continuous, brilliant answer. And actually, for that alone, I'm really grateful. I kind of use that as a little bit of a technique now. Make a deliberate mistake, and actually people correct you and settle into the whole process nicely. And what was really interesting that struck me quite soon was that he'd never really been comfortable with being any kind of front man of the organisation. He was an engineer first and foremost.
It's often the case, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he was, in a way, he was kind of the polar opposite to Bob Moog, whereas, Bob was a kind of very warm and outgoing character, evident sense of humour, and Alan was very quiet and quite shy and not particularly charismatic, not in the same kind of magisterial way that Bob was. But his humour was great, but again, it was really quiet. And he freely admits that he didn't really have a rapport with contemporary musicians back in the day, and actually said that he couldn't understand them, the jargon and their orientation, whatever that latter word meant. But it became fascinating once I'd kind of worked out this kind of 12-year period to find out about other parts of his life. And you and I talked about it when you were drawing up your little piece, and the fact that he took up running marathons and cycling as he approached 40, because both his grandfather and his father had died in their 40s of heart-related illnesses. And things like, you know, he loved Morton Subotnick's The Wild Bull and Sibelius's Symphony No. 2. And he was also a really accomplished pianist and a great painter. And his wife was also a really great artist. So during the interview, he kept kind of referring to Bueno as my guardian angel, and told us that in their older, bigger house, they shared an art space in the basement. He kind of did engineering and art on one side, and she did her art on the other side. And it was kind of strange. I started to kind of think of me and my missus, not that I'm anywhere in the league of Pearlman by any stretch of the imagination, but our setup is kind of similar. I'm upstairs, she's downstairs. We can yell at each other. Alan's wife was a fitness fanatic, so is my wife. My wife is undoubtedly my guardian angel. And then there were loads of little things that started to kind of fall into place. And I just saw this potential tiny glimpse of me and my missus in the future, if we're ever fortunate enough to live to that ripe old age. Anyway, gradually Buena warmed to us. I think she could tell we were genuine and interested. And eventually they asked us to stay to dinner. And we asked them over dinner whether they'd ever been to the UK. And they said they had in the 70s. And in fact, it's quite funny because they said they'd flown in and they'd arrived at a posh hotel in London, which was really stuffy, to use their words. And we all remember those kind of hotels from the 70s. And they were very hungry after their flight, but they couldn't get into the restaurant because in those days you needed to have an aperitif in the bar. And they had a young child, Dina, who's my age, who was obviously young then. And of course, Chris and myself kind of rolled our eyes and asked, what did you do? Whereupon she explained that she did what kept her alive as a child, and I used my elbows to get to the food. We're a little bit kind of confused, but I like this picture of her elbowing her way through the gentrified kind of waiters and stuff, and the surly London staff. So we kind of said, what do you mean? And she said, 3 concentration camps, my dear. And we just went, whoa. So over dinner, we listened to how she survived and how after the war she was a displaced person and with no documents ended up in the US, and how via her brother, who I think was her kind of sponsor, met Alan. And we were utterly, utterly blown away. And then right at the end, when we left, we asked Alan to sign our 2600 manual, and Buena gave us a couple of her art pieces, enamel bowls, which actually take pride of place in my living room. And honestly, on the drive back to the hotel, Chris and I just didn't stop going, wow, for hours. So we'd gone for this talk about synthesis, but it just broadened out. And actually, the love between those two people was so evident and so brilliant. I called my wife and explained it. And I actually said, I think I've just grown up, which obviously didn't last very long, evidently. But what's fascinating is if anybody's interested out there, Spielberg's Shoah Foundation filmed Buena's testimony, and I posted it on my Facebook today with his daughter's permission, and it's out there on YouTube, and it's absolutely worth watching, particularly, I think, in these turbulent times. And for me, I think the best tribute really is the fact that, Alan and Buena, despite all the challenges and everything they faced, for me, were like the poster children of love and great art conquers all. And that's my piece.
Thank you, Dave. That's really lovely. Yeah. That's what a lovely tribute. And it is, while it's sad, it's also celebratory, and that is a good thing. And it's, as so often is the case, we've I don't know how many times we've had these conversations with people who've passed on, but certainly in our neck of the woods or in our industry, more often than not, there is some kind of legacy left behind, and there's some sort of remembrance, and there's some sort of evidence of them being here. And obviously, with him, there's all the beautiful music and that continues to be made with the things that he did, and that's. I mean, how could you? In some ways, being a facilitator for making the music is almost more important than having that song that people remember you by. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thing, but being actually the source of it somehow seems to have more value. I don't know whether anybody feels about that, but yeah, it's sad. I don't know. Yoad, have you got any ARP stuff? I mean, is it something that you reach for a lot of time? I mean, it's
Well, I do have the Chroma Polaris, and which is a very. You talked about beefy oscillators, and this one has like, to me it sounds like 8 ARPs. It has 8 voice polyphony, and the sound is just mind blowing. It's a little bit tricky to handle, and it's got some really amazing software abilities. Like you can program the sound of the click for the sequencer and things like that. And when you think, and when you think that it came out in '86 or something like that. It's just mind-blowing, the amount of, and when you open it, it looks just amazing how much stuff there's in there in terms of, I mean, it's fully analog, and it has all the, the 8 cards for the voices and everything, but there's a great deal of software going on in there, and it just sounds amazing. I mean, it has those soft switches like the DX7 and all that.
Yeah,
and
the membrane stuff, yeah.
Which are a bit dry, and but I managed before they kind of, you can get by, but with MIDI Quest I can totally control it, and it just sounds amazing. It has a very, very unique sound, and I haven't heard anything like it. Dave will be probably able to say whether it's kind of at 2600, how much it resembles or stems from 2600 or something like that. But to me, it just sounds. I mean, it could well be thought of as a big. I'm looking at it right now, and it doesn't look that nice, but it sounds amazing. It's a really big beast, and I love it.
Yeah, well, I know, because I mean the ARP stuff. I mean, we've talked about this as well, Dave. I mean, I don't know for you, Chicky, but I mean it's actually got a lot of resonance with the UK kind of early electronic music scene, because the Daniel Millers and those early bands. It was one of the only affordable synthesizers of the time, because Moogs were, as we know, more expensive and harder to come by, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked in a studio for years that had a 2600 in there. And then I worked at another studio that had one nearby that I had access to. And then again, up until pretty recently, I've had reasonable access to one. And of course, I've got the, I'm not big on soft synths generally, but I do like the Arteria one. I think it's quite good. I do love the sound. God, it's just so amazing sounding. But yeah, it has been a dream of mine to own one, and I've always been in this situation where it's just been convenient enough that I didn't have to go buy one. But now I probably have to find one.
Yeah,
but 2600. That's my dream synth. I love Klaus Schulze type stuff, and that's the sound I go for a lot on synths.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's interesting, actually, Gaz. When we did the show in Bristol a little while back, Chris Calcutt. Chris Calcutt had an ARP, and it was really interesting because as soon as it was making a sound, it immediately commanded the sound stage. You go, oh, that's what. Oh, okay, I see that, because he was using it live, wasn't he, on his set at our live at DBS Music. That's what I'm looking for.
Set as well. That Chris's set was really good.
It certainly was. Yeah,
well worth a watch. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just puzzle. How did they get it so right with so little to base it on when they first? Well, the 2500, I suppose, came out before it, but prior to the 2500, and excuse my lack of knowledge here, what was their first commercial product under the ARP name?
Dave, you'll know.
No, the 25 was it. That's my dream synth, I have to say, but although that's way out of my league now.
Yeah,
we've got pretty much everything else, but the 25 is like, I had an opportunity. Oh God, it's a long story. I won't go into it now, but I had an opportunity. Somebody in Germany faxed me saying that a friend of his had won an ARP Odyssey in a competition, and how much was it worth? And it was like a radio phone-in thing for, I think it had been sat in Telefunken Studios. Anyway, I went back going, it depends on the revision. And the color and whatnot, and the filter and whatnot. And I asked him to fax me back the details, and he faxed me this list through. And within 15 seconds of this fax coming through, I'm like, this isn't an Odyssey. This is a 2500 that was in Telefunken Studios for years and had been given away as a radio, as part of a radio competition. And in fact, I tried calling this guy to go, I will drive to Berlin tomorrow and I will give you, I think at the time it was £5,000. Whereas his mate had offered him something like 400 marks. And ultimately, I didn't get to him in time, and his mate picked it up saying that it was useless. And, well, his alleged mate, his not mate at all, picked it up off of him and walked away with a 2500, which is now, you know, you see them now going for like £200,000.
It is one of the most, you know, it goes, doesn't it? The phases go, but the 2500 seems to be the one at the moment. The synth that everybody would like to get, and the rarities and all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, that was amazing about the Bristol event that I'm chatting to this chap there, Tony Gallagher, who holds up a picture. I didn't know who he was. He holds up a picture of a 2500 and says, I've got 3 of these. So I was his new best friend that day.
Yeah, we'll pop round to Tony's after the show, and you distract him. I'll see if I can slip one under my extra large fleece. Yeah, but no, Gaz, I mean, yeah, the legacy of those instruments it's hard to overestimate, isn't it? I mean, they're just across so many genres of music. Prog as well.
It's especially pertinent today because there's a service going on in Newton today, so actually we're there in spirit.
Yeah, yeah, excellent, absolutely. Okay, well, gosh, I guess what's the time? I suppose I should do a Dave. Are you all right to stick around? What's your kind of thoughts?
I will shoot off. Thank you. Thank you for letting me do that. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Well, no, thank you for that insight. You know, I'm just glad you got to meet and talk to him. So, you know,
yeah, so am I. Very, very life changing, and I'm hugely, hugely appreciative. So yes, yeah, and I'd spoken to him a couple of times afterwards, and via email, and he'd always replied saying, "Nice to hear from you," which makes a change.
Oh, cheers, Dave.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
I'll tell you
guys.
what we'll do is we'll run. We've got a little message from iZotope, which we can run now, and then we can do the competition. How about that?
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And of course, you can check it out for yourself by going to iZotope.com /. Well, actually, it's not /RX7. That'll give you a 404 now. They changed their structure, but if you head over there, you can download a demo that lasts for 10 days, and we have competition from the last episode, and the winner is this is great actually. It just so happened because it was I think we asked for to be tweeting Christmas mixes RX7, and they did a little poem, and it was "Away in a Flanger," which I thought was a great Christmas gag. Away in a flanger, no Ableton suite, the little Korg Volker laid down some sweet beats. So that's Babs, that's at Tweety Babs is the handle, so at Tweety Babs with Zs. Please get in touch. You've just won a copy of RX7, and if anybody wants to enter the competition for RX7 this week, we're looking for the hashtag Repair Assistant. That's one word, Repair Assistant, and the hashtag RX7 to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag Repair Assistant and the hashtag RX7 to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. So topics. Well, I was going to get on to kind of new, Christmas gifts and New Year's resolutions, but actually we've probably can get onto some real stuff. Did anyone see? No, where is it? Oh, I've actually got to throw this picture up. So. Because I don't have a video for it. This was this happened once before actually, and this is the FCC website in where you have to submit designs for things like radio frequencies and RF interference and stuff. It's like a national thing. We got the same thing in the UK, and it's supposed to be secret. And this has happened to Akai a couple of times. And the submission was public for a little while, and a picture was leaked that is this new live APC, and there's all sorts of other details. It's now been closed, which is obviously good, but it's out there in the world. So it looks like a cross between the Akai MPC Live, which as we know is a standalone MPC, which kind of caused a bit of a storm, and there's the X as well. But this has also got, I believe it's got some CV and gate outputs as well, but also a sort of push style hardware, which, as we know, or maybe you didn't know, but Akai worked with Ableton to create the first push. The second push is an Ableton only thing. So this looks like it could be quite interesting, just purely because you might get Ableton style functionality, clip launching and whatnot inside some hardware. So I'm going to come to you first, Gaz, because it's funny, we did a special on the MPC Live and the MPC X with Andy Mack. We've done a couple of presentation things, but we've not actually looked at it. But it looks to be like a really powerful ecosystem. The idea of having something that is standalone like this, which also can control computer stuff, kind of quite fascinating if they're going to take it in this direction.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that people have been, screaming for years. Is like the hardware clip launching, a hardware version of the clip launching parts, the session view of Ableton. So as far as I'm aware, what's happening then is that the MPC software, I can't remember which version now, is it 2.6 or something?
APC
is going to be introducing this or expanding rather the kind of clip launching facilities. So I think it's important to understand that it's not going to be Ableton Live.
No, of course not. Right.
It's but that workflow of being able to, or the non-linear workflow of being able to trigger things. Native Instruments did a similar thing, didn't they, with the Machine Jam that they launched maybe about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it looks like Akai are following a similar path, albeit with that thing of it being a standalone machine. And this one does look actually like really good. It's got, as you mentioned, a decent amount of CV connectivity. Obviously the analog inputs being able to sort of sample directly into it. This is a lot of conjecture, isn't it? We are just...
Well, I mean, it is interesting because, you've got to bear in mind that just because it's there doesn't mean it's necessary. But we suspect that this is what's going to be kicking off at NAMM. Because there were links to things like, the manual and stuff. So it may be that they're holding back for something later, or it may not ever see the light of day, but... It seems unlikely that would be.
Yeah. So what I'm interested to see is whether those pads are musically satisfying to play, or whether they'll have velocity sensitivity. Like the Machine Jam, for instance, the pads are designed more for kind of clip launching than they are for actually playing onto. So it'd be interesting to see if Akai are going to, because before the push, remember Akai were the first really out the gate, I think before Novation as well, with the original launch pad with the APC 40.
Yes. Yeah,
that was the first.
You still see that a lot of Ableton performers are using that. Yeah, really good. And obviously it's on the Mark II now. But that was just again was non-velocity sort of clip launching. I'm sure they will because if they're using the same. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
Yes. So I guess that's what I'm interested to see is as well as that workflow, that clip launching type of workflow. Is it going to be a really nice, satisfying thing to play? Because some pretty decent synths in it now, I think, as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. You could get kind of plug it. It's kind of we're getting almost into meta land, where you've got plugins that run in a hardware a standalone ecosystem, but will also run in a plugin environment that you could use the hardware to control in the DAW. It's kind of like it's kind of head exploding. If I just come to you, Charles, is this sort of hardware the sort of thing that you could see, like some of the acts that you're working with, starting to use live? Because I mean, when this first came out, the whole the Live and the X EcoSphere system, it was like, wow, this could mean basically no computer required. We can run stems, we can run samples, we've got the outputs. Let's just do it, and then we don't have to worry about having a computer, even though it sort of is a computer anyway.
I can see this like working. I mean, I'll have to talk to Robbie Bronneman about this, but I think I can see this really working well for Howard Jones. A bit for OMD and some other acts that I do live. I can see this definitely working. But as far as for me personally, 3 words: take my money. I definitely want one of these. If that is what it looks like it's going to be, I would love something like that. I mean, I love the Push because, or I have the Push 2. Yeah, I love that partly because I don't really have to be so involved in the computer, But this just seems like next level. And
I'm just going to zoom in here because it looks like above all of those rotary encoders, I don't know if you could see that because of the screen capture might not get there's actually a little LCD on that beveled edge as well as the big touchscreen thing, so you got parameter readout by the looks of it on there too.
Oh, so nice. That's so nice. Yeah.
But Chicky, you've spent all your money on the stuff from the sales. You can't. Or is work allowed? I don't know. What are the delineations?
Yeah. There seems to be an unlimited budget for things that I go, I can make money from this somehow, I'm sure. But yeah, this looks like what I was hoping the Push 2 would be. I mean, the Push 2 is great. I love it. I use it all the time. But this does look like a step above dramatically. And I want one. I want one even before it's built.
Yeah, we don't know if it's... so, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I can see there you've got a little kind of tribute corner to some Akai samplers there. That looks like... is that a 2000? And have you got a 900 there?
No, it's a 1000 S1000 to 2000 with the special EB something effects card.
Right, okay.
And a 3000.
So, I mean, something like this, it's interesting for me. I mean, I guess in the studio it's probably less useful. But, I mean, in the same way that you maybe started out doing the same thing that I did, where you were hired to come into a studio to perhaps
Absolutely.
operate this gear for the person that you know are in front of the desk. Could you see something like this being the sort of thing that people would come in and like, hey, well, I'll come in with this and we'll operate it and we can make it kind of do what you need to do within the context of a session? I mean, it looks pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, I have to say that when the MPC Live or X or one of them came out, I went out and bought it, and I really like the touch and the feel and everything. But I was really put off by the fact that it still uses the kind of old Akai paradigm of program files, and that you have to load everything in advance in order to. And for me, what I like about Machine, for instance, I know it's just a controller for the actual software, but it's the fact that you have random access. You can browse stuff and you can play them immediately, right, without having to load them. And the whole, for me, it kind of beats the purpose of being able to just play with stuff, because you have to plan in advance what you want, what you may want to be using, and stuff like that. And I have to say that I was a little bit put off by that. At the same time, the hardware felt really good, and this new hardware thing looks really nice. So I'm not sure. I don't use Ableton much. I use it at Waves for when we develop stuff. We use basically all the major DAWs. So I know it very well. But I don't know. There's something about limitation that can lead to great creativity and all that. But for me, I just didn't click with the MPC lot and the Machine. For that matter, I do like the Machine software, and I use it with a mouse and scroll through sounds with it up and down arrows, and I like the kind of library setup with the filters and all that, which NI are very famous for. But I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Let's wait and see.
Because ultimately, this is kind of crossing the bridge to a degree, because obviously there's an entire kind of generation and genres of people who swear by the MPC workflow. You know, got all the legacy hip hop guys, all the kind of beat makers, all of those guys and gals are like so into MPC. The Live and the X are slightly different to that. But it takes what it seems to me to offer most of all, rather than this creative powerhouse, it's the ability to take this whole thing and just do it on the road, take it out with you, so you can do all of those things at the same time. It's that they might need to unlock.
And for me, most of my work, if not all my work, is done here in front of the desk. And one of the biggest problem I have is real estate, because when you work in front of when you work on a big mixing desk, you can't put stuff on it. So I have a very limited amount of space, of 19-inch rack space and I use the Beatstep Pro for that, and a little keyboard, and that's it. But so anything else that I would like to use, I need to put it on something on the side, and then it gets cluttered with the USB leads and all that. So so for me, I have to be very careful about what I choose to use aside from a mouse, really.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
You know what I mean? And I don't tour at all, and I don't perform. I haven't been on stage for ages. Maybe I should, but if I do, I would play guitar and not.
Well, there you go. Problem solved. Problem solved. Although, actually, to be fair, do you remember, Gaz, you did that thing with the Machina. Was it Machina where you process the guitar? I'm pretty sure that you can process real-time inputs on the plug-in power that comes with these with the X and the Live. And I'm guessing the operating system of this guy is going to be fairly similar. It's just the kind of hardware wrapper and the functionality that's changed around it. So for performance stuff, the idea of being able to take that and maybe, you know, plug a MIDI keyboard into it as well, and just that's your lot, and maybe a mic, you know, yeah, great. I like the idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though to see how Machine and the MPC, you know, they've been like this, and then the standalone aspect of Akai kind of taken up like this, and then Machina Mark III having a built-in sound card and pretty decent, really decent sounding sound card actually built into it, sort of brings it, even though it's not exactly standalone, but I think it's really healthy though.
Well, it's that cool. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. We end up with that kind of feature. I mean, because as we've seen with DAWs, isn't it? You know, Cubase went into the ascendancy and started kind of introducing all these features that other people were emulating. And, you know, before that it was maybe Live or however. So having two competing kind of pad-based platforms, hardware, and of course, let's not forget the Deluge as well. I mean, it's they're not going to have quite the same amount of resources that Akai and I have, but they may. Their 2.0 is it 2.0 or 2.1 software that's come out. It's had a lot of, but you can imagine them with their next hardware platform could be another contender in that space as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Deluge just continues to impress, doesn't it? I mean, in terms of the most impressive updates, God, that thing just keeps on getting better and better. So that's really cool. And of course, not forgetting in this category as well is the Electron Octatrack. Yeah, which kind of carves its own niche, really. It's very unique.
Sort of, what you mean, at the center of a kind of live setup with maybe laptop free, yeah,
laptop free kind of setup, yeah. So, yeah, interesting, really good. I mean, you know, again, if you went back a few years, the Octatrack was kind of the only thing really that could do that without a computer now. So the fact that you've got the Deluge, the MPC Live and whatnot, you know, it's interesting. I do think that idea though of just being in that little workspace and feeling, you know, I mean, I know we've mentioned this many times, you know, you don't have Facebook popping up on it and various things like that. I know you can.
Someone's going to figure it out. Someone will figure it out. It'll happen at some point in the future.
I mean, this is one of my gripes about a lot of the iOS versions of things. You know,
notifications.
They've put all kind of social media stuff into some of the apps. You know, it's like, I don't want that. You want just a music environment. But cool. This is an exciting development for sure.
It is, and I suppose it takes us because, as we know, NAMM is just around the corner. In fact, what's the date today? It's the what is the date? It's the 9th. NAMM is on the 23rd. Well, the preview day is on the 23rd, and then it goes through to the 27th, I believe. So we're obviously going. We're getting all prepped up for that. And there have been a few rumours around there, and this is probably the biggest one. Although it's just the proximity of it to NAMM probably means that if we're going to see it, we might well see it at NAMM. But there's been a couple of things from Pittsburgh Modular as well. I'm not sure if they're showing up, but they brought up this. It's another kind of desktop synth, which is interesting. I don't know whether that's a teeny one. I can't tell whether they look. Yeah, they're 1/8-inch jack. So this sounded kind of angry. So we don't know what that is. But it sounds like I do like Pittsburgh Modular stuff. It looks kind of interesting. Maybe something that's taking on the. From the Microvolt 3900, which we reviewed. And then there's also the, where was it? It was the Dreadbox Hypnosis. So look, this looks kind of good. In fact, I've just reviewed I will be publishing the review for the Erebus version 3. So this looks like a standalone effect. So that's 80s shell suit all over it, isn't it? And I like the idea of these dedicated effects boxes.
Yeah.
That's a strong look for me.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see this maybe at NAMM, I'm not sure, maybe at Super Booth. We don't know whether all of these people are going to be there. But this looks kind of fun. I think it's coming summer, from what I understand, summer... next, am I right with that? Have I got that? Yeah, summer 2009. Analog spring reverb, stereo analog BBD with chorus flanger, stereo digital delay. So there's a bunch of stuff. I mean, I know some of us are in positions where we can't actually talk about any of this stuff anyway because we're under NDAs and things. But how about if we say, what would you like to see at NAMM? And obviously you can't include anything. I mean, is NAMM still important in the musical calendar for you, or are you kind of more focused on the own products that you're involved in?
You know what? It's when I go there, it's overwhelming. All these road, all these big events. It's just mind blowing, and after a while, it gets too much. The noise and the people and and all that, And so for me, I'm more patient now, and I can wait to see what you write about it and what other people write about stuff and all that, and also we're very much aware. I'm now wearing the Waves hat about the industry and about what everyone else is doing and up to, and what we're up to and how. So I'm kind of aware of what's going on anyway, without having to fly for 11 hours and
okay, don't rub it
in. So plus I've been really occupied with the studio build and the move, because I started it in May, so it's going to be now 10 months since I've been building this studio, and this is on top of working and mixing and producing and writing and developing stuff for Waves and all that. So this year
you can take a breather. Take a breather. Just stay watching the Sonicstate channel. We'll bring you all the exciting new stuff. Exactly. It's interesting though. I mean, do you think in some ways, Charles, we sort of know about most things. I mean, it's so rare that you get a complete, wow, I didn't see that coming these days. I mean, because of the leaks. I mean, because obviously we have a certain amount of inside information, but it seems like everybody does to a degree. If somebody's got it, then somebody else has got that information too, and it'll find a way out. So that kind of big surprise is such a rarity these days, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just being on this show alone, that's where I hear about most things. And then once NAMM happens, I just wait to listen to what you had to say about what happened there. But one thing I want to mention before I forget, I'm not going to go to NAMM this year. I meant to go to NAMM this year, but I'm not. But it's because I'm going to be in LA anyway, and so maybe we can meet up while I'm there, because I'm doing a show on the 26th at Microsoft Theater.
Oh, that's a Saturday night.
Saturday night.
How long are you going to be? Well, hold on a minute. How long are you going to be in? Because we get out of Anaheim. We're going to be in Santa Monica on the 27th, so we'll be in town then.
I'm off that day. I mean, you can come to the show if you want. I'll get you tickets to the show.
Yeah, we'll be. Saturday night is. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's spoken for. I appreciate that, but
yeah, I have a day off in LA, and then the next day I fly to Peru. So we're doing we're doing like Tucson, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Lima, Santiago, and then back here.
Wow. Okay.
So, but yeah, it'd be great to hook up if you're there. But I really do want to go to NAMM. I just want to experience it. I've never been. I've always waited until things at the shop. You know,
it is a very unique experience. I mean, Gaz, you know this, don't you? Because I mean, you experienced it for the first time last year, and it is kind of too much. It can be very overwhelming. You almost, I mean, the experienced ones amongst us become very, you just shut down. You try not to get too excited about stuff because you just can't sustain that level of enthusiasm and energy over that period of time. So you kind of, I've said this many times before, you just kind of, you strip back to your core bodily functions and things you have to remember, like where's the car, where's my hotel, what time is it, and that sort of has anyone uploaded that video yet? You know, that's it. But
why is there no reception at all?
Yeah, well, we don't have so much that problem. But yeah, Gaz, I mean, you had it for the first time this year. I mean, what would you like to see at NAMM? I mean, you know, we have a certain amount of, like I say, but things that you don't know about. I want to see.
I would still like to see more MPE, more manufacturers kind of going into the MPE sort of world there, because I think that last year's NAMM there was that significant announcement from the MIDI, what they called the MIDI, the board of what are they called, the MIDI organization,
the MIDI guys,
the MIDI guys. But they announced the standardization of MPE, or rather, you know, the and also MIDI CE as well. So I'm really keen to see if manufacturers will have seized upon that.
Actually, that's interesting. Just quickly, the Arturia pigments. That's now got, at least it's got poly aftertouch support. Just want to throw that in, which isn't quite MPE, but it's a start.
And when the Novation X Station came out in the early 2000s, I just thought, wow, that's the way. You know, it's a fantastic controller keyboard. I think it was really good actually for its time, with a built-in audio interface. And so I would just like to see something like that, like something which is something you could use live, something that could be a synthesizer, something that could also connect to the computer and also have some degree of MPE controllability too. Whether anyone will do that, I'm not sure, but something like that I think would be really exciting. But certainly MPE related stuff, I think.
I suspect it will be going. I mean, that's interesting. There was another topic here which was sort of MPE related. I don't know if we'll get round to it because it's now 5 o'clock, but the Roly Seaboard Grand has now been discontinued. So all of that kind of focus to the MPE world is coming down the price point. So I suspect we're going to see a lot more focus on that. And Roly, you know, they own Juice, so that's a framework where MPE stuff can be built in. You know, I think we are going to see a lot more MPE stuff, and with embedded technology and all of this stuff coming in, I'm pretty sure we'll see a lot more of that. And because Roly have pretty much, I mean, I know there are other flavors. Obviously, we've got the Harkham, we've got Roger Lynn stuff. There are other things that do it, but they've probably opened the world of that MPE expression to a much broader audience more than anybody else, and at a great cost. I mean, they've put so much money into it. So I think you're right. I mean, it feels like it's not going away, is it? That's for sure.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, I really like the instrument, and I think these are really, really interesting devices, and with software like Pigments being compatible with it as well, you know, it's like, what are we going to see? But other than that, I mean, at NAMM this year, I mean, yes, there are rumours doing the rounds at the moment, which look interesting. So I think there's going to be quite a lot of cool stuff. I do think we are going to have some big surprises announced there. Well, at least I'm hoping so. But what would I like to see other than MPE? Actually more desktop effects units like that fantastic Dreadbox one as well. That's what I'd like to see some more of. Real hands-on desktop-y effects.
Well, I wonder because obviously we're seeing a kind of churn to a degree of the sort of people that are exhibiting, because NAMM is expensive. People are maybe breaking off and thinking of doing Super Booth or this other I've forgotten the name of it now. The synth. Gosh, I'm just looking for it now. It's the one in Burbank. It's called Synthplex, which is going to be in March in LA. So there'll be So I wonder if we'll actually start to see, like we always used to, where you get the downstairs is where people come in because the booths are cheaper. So you get this a whole new sort of generation of manufacturers and new products coming in as they gradually percolate up through the building to get onto the main floors. Maybe we're just going to see a whole load of new stuff, in which case it will be things that we haven't seen before and things that are going to be new. And that's part of the fun. That's what we try and create a space in which where we've got a few hours where we could just zip around, because more often than not somebody goes, have you seen that thing downstairs? And it's like, what? And it could be anything. And that's the beauty of that show. You will see that stuff still there, but you might not just see the latest Make Noise or Pittsburgh Modular, whatever it is. They might not choose to announce at NAMM. They would choose to announce before, as many people are doing. But it's going to be fun anyways, that's for sure.
Well, we definitely saw more announcements at Super Booth last year than we did at NAMM, specifically related to stuff.
And I think we will again, from those companies, for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I don't know whether or not there's any other topics in there that anyone feels particularly strongly about, but it feels like we made it to 5 o'clock and and it all still works. So the new year, new tech hasn't broken anything. I'm looking up at the new screen. That hasn't caused this computer to crash. We still seem to be streaming. The chat room's working, so that's a good start. I think that's a good start. And Yoad, I'm pretty sure that you'll agree with that. Being in a new facility yourself, if it just works, that's always a good start, right?
Absolutely. When it all works, I'll be happy.
So will you be having lots of kind of crackly patch bays from all the dust, or have you kept them all covered up?
No, it's kind of. I mean, I was trying to count the number of patch bay points I have here, and it's in the thousands. So if 90% of them still work, I need to walk you through what's happening here in the studio, because I spent a lot of time planning this, and I had an opportunity. When you build a completely new studio, then you have a really good opportunity to rewire, to basically plan
how you want,
and
have you gone all copper, or are you doing any kind of like Ethernet routing and running anything?
There's everything. In the ceiling alone, there's 48 lines, analog lines, as well as 8 Ethernet Cat7. 8 MIDI leads, and even a serial port for the MIDI timepiece to network the two. So and even in the cupboard there, I have 16 way analog with Ethernet, and it's all kind of. It's really exciting building a new studio in 2018/19, and it's very different from last time I did it, which was 2009. So. It's really exciting. All DigiGrid, not DigiGrid, sound grid. So everything is with a lot of audio networking between every room and the kitchen. I can put a server in the kitchen cupboard and things like that, and which can. It's like it's so crazy.
Are you going to get to the point where? So I mean, obviously, when you've got the stuff over Ethernet and you're using kind of a network transport, are you going to get to the point where you can actually just be away from here and just get stuff routed and record stuff via your studio from audio routing?
I have been doing that for several years now. So I'm operating
really?
the Neve remotely, and I
Awesome.
can run. Obviously, not turning the knobs, but I do a lot of summing. A lot of summing on the desk, and I run the calibration. The lineup for the desk for the recall and everything remotely, and I can print mixes. So the studio will be here with no one around, and there'll be lights going on off, and 48 tracks playing through the Neve, and I'll record it.
Wow.
And it really changed my life, because in the old days I had to be here all the time to print stamps and stuff like that. I have my assistants that do it for me, to be honest, but still, I can sit in bed in Tel Aviv or at Waves or wherever I am, and print mixes, run mixes through the Neve, and it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
Wow. That is it. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Gaz, are your cogs beginning to whir now? I mean,
No, I'm just thinking,
actually, that's an interesting. You've got a lot of analog stuff there, Charles. Have you got any network kind of aspect to it, or is it all just copper wires where you are?
I've got so this is my mix room, and it's a separate building from my house. My house is about 14 meters over there, and I have the whole house wired up. And I've got 48 analog lines are from, and four that I run as stereo mixes back. So I put a stereo jack and make a stereo mix out of it. And then I've got 2 Cat 5e lines that I run 96 channels on my Digico.
Right.
So I have plenty of ins and outs, but nothing like what Yoad has. It's just wow. That is, I was salivating just listening to all that wiring. That's amazing.
Wiring.
That's great. That's some great networking you got there, man. Yeah, I don't have anything like that. But I do have a lot. I got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's good because I'm doing, when I get back from South America, I'm doing a video shoot in my house, a full band with a video shoot, because all of my downstairs is open plan, so I can fit a whole band in there pretty easily. So we're doing this video shoot, and I think we're doing, it's about 60 lines, 60 mic channels. So I know it sounds like a lot, but it's just we're doing some crazy stuff. But and we're doing ambisonics and stuff like that. So I need it for that. But although a lot of my sessions, it's not nearly as many inputs as that, but it's always good to have too many. So there you go.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Too many inputs is there such a thing as too many inputs? I suppose if they're all open and they've got too much gain on them.
That's the show title, isn't it?
Yeah. Is there such a thing as too many inputs?
Yeah.
Can you have too many inputs? Right. I'm writing that down.
There you go.
Inputs. Right. Brilliant.
In the 11th hour of the show.
I'm so pleased we got there. Well, it feels like this is a kind of natural point at which to sort of say goodbye and thank you for watching. It's been a little bit meandering on my hosting part, just purely because it's a slow start to the year, but I think we'll be getting in there. We'll have another show next week, and I think that will be the 16th, and then that's it, because we're flying out on Tuesday the 22nd. So that'll be it until we get back, and then we get a couple of days off, and I land on Wednesday, the 1st or the 2nd of Feb. So they're going to be a couple of weeks, but hopefully there'll be plenty of content coming your way in the meantime. That's for sure. Usually we manage to get around about 90 to 100 videos out from NAMM, and we try and make it good. And also, actually, one thing that I'm quite excited about, we've got Audio Technica are sponsoring us by providing a load of new mics. So we now, because normally we have these Omni lapel radio mics are usually Omni lavaliers, and they're really terrible in a show environment because there's so much noise. But we've got these AT I forget what they're called now, but they're headset mountable, so it's a cardioid electret which will be here, so there'll be all of that extra rejection. So
like mine.
Is that what you've got as well?
I have that's a DPA.
Right, well, actually. DPA, we couldn't quite stretch to DPAs. A set of 3 of those would be, and they also fit with the System 10's wireless system, which is really great because we can have the headset mics or a lav mic or a stick. So if a stick works better, you can give them a stick and you just pair it with the base station, and it's just really flexible for that ENG kind of news thing. So hopefully the audio quality will be upped, and everything else will be up, because we've got a new kind of network video system which will, fingers crossed, mean that everything is just auto-named. I've been writing scripts that are, so basically what we do is we stick a card into one of two computers that's got a little text file on it that tells the computer what is on it, and then it renames all of the folders, copies them over to the SSD, everybody edits from the SSD, and it's all automated, so there's no human error.
Nice.
Basically, that's the idea. So that's it's a more behind the scenes change, but the audio should change because of the Audio Technica mics. So I'm hoping that's going to make a really big difference, because it is such a loud environment. If we can reduce that in any way, but still be able to keep the immediacy.
Hopefully, no marching bands walking past.
There's always marching bands walking past. There's the drum circle. There's that. I mean, you know, that's the way it goes, Gaz. There's, you know, there will be at all times. It's like that old adage, isn't it? You're never more than 6 feet away from a rat. It's kind of, you know, at NAMM you're never more than 60 meters away from a marching band. So same sort of thing. Although I'm not saying that there's in any way a parallel between the two things. It's just the distance thing.
But they are the same.
I need to get out of that hole, don't I? Anyway, chaps, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been fun as ever. We will see you all next week. Hopefully some of you will make it. And nice to see you, Yoad. I hope that your studio build continues to get you where you need to go.
Thank you.
That's it for this week. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.